All right. Hey, everybody out there in the pickleball world. This is Scott Golden. I am here in Boca Raton, Florida right now. This is El Rio Park behind me. These are some beautiful pickleball courts that we have the opportunity to get to play on. So that's going to be the background for my interview tonight. And I have a special guest, one that I'm very familiar with, and you are too, I'm sure. If you've been around the pickleball world for just any number of months, you've seen and heard this guy's name. I'm very excited. This is not his actual first time on my interview show. He is a second-time guest. I'm excited to welcome a four-time All-American in tennis at the University of Alabama, none other than my friend, the one and only Rick Witsken. What's up, buddy?
Wow, that's quite an introduction. Thinking back to where we met and you saying Alabama, we met in Birmingham and we
Yes,
had
we
some
did.
epic rec games. And, it was then and there where I thought, I'm going to like this guy because he's got a great personality and we're in the middle of points and in the middle of games. So you can actually have a high level of play and in love and enjoy not only yourself, but the people on the other side of the net. So I can't say when I was playing those SEC battles in tennis that I always loved the people on the other side of the net. When I played Scott Golden, like, I like this guy. So
I remember
thanks for
that.
having me on.
For sure. You were coming through, you were going back to Indiana or something, or coming from Indiana, and you were going to like a wedding or a graduation or something. You hit me up on Facebook. You said, hey, I'm coming through. I'd love a couple hours to just play with you guys. I wasn't as good as I am now, but I wasn't terrible. And I remember we did have the best time. Man, we had the most fun. I know you didn't walk away thinking that's the best play I've ever had, but you did say that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's been fun to see the guys that I played with and and your evolution too. Obviously we both have taken more significant paths in pickleball, and that was kind of at the crux. I think 4 years ago, where the sport was growing, and for you and your broadcasts, and you as a player, and you involved in tournaments. For me, as a player, as a family man, but as a guy that wants to run tournaments and connected to Indianapolis facilities, and but feel talented that I want to make a mark as a player too. So it's like a buffet that we had, which route we could go, and it's fun to see you evolve. And I've enjoyed what pickleball has done for me.
Yeah, I've certainly seen you get more involved in pickleball. Where I met you in the beginning, you liked it, you played a couple tournaments, you kind of dipped your toes in, but now, and we're going to dig into this a little more, but you've really immersed yourself into the pickleball community and the pickleball world. You still do tennis. I still, if I understand correctly, if my researchers did their homework, you still have the Witsken Tennis Academy, but you've also really started weaving in pickleball and more and more of that, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect storm of both of those working together. Today, I was coaching middle school girls in a county tournament. My daughter Peyton was on the team too, but it was unbelievable because due to contact tracing, one of our varsity players couldn't play. It was coming down to the last match. I had to kind of put a sub in who wasn't typically a varsity player. They were down 7-3 in a pro set to 8. They came back in the tiebreaker and won the team championship. You know, I've been in tennis for 30 years as a coach, and to see that happen and still get chills and know what that can do for a kid's life is really special. And kids are really important to me. I have 3 teenagers myself, but I'm excited, and we can touch on this maybe later with the Indy Open, but we're going to do a kids pickleball clinic, and I'm trying to get our teenagers that I coach in tennis a little more connected to the game. We've got some lines painted on our middle school courts now, and I just think there's such an obvious parallel between the sports, and I think that the synergies are continuing to grow, which is a good thing. Because 4 years ago, when you and I were playing pickleball on a tennis court lines, tennis players weren't super accommodating of their love of the game.
Absolutely. And now we're seeing facilities with 30 and 40, and even at the US Open, 60 something courts, 2,000 to 3,000 players coming in from all over the world to compete. The money and the prize money is getting bigger each year. So with that, let's transition into that question that I had for you, which is talk about your medals at the US Open and what kind of special experience that was for you. And also, I want you to talk about the split age men's pro division. That was the first time that's ever happened. And I want to know if, number one, I think I saw you playing in it. Number two, did you have fun? And what was that like? So go ahead.
Yeah, well, kudos to the U.S. Open for thinking outside of the box and having a split age event. Obviously, I'm one of the senior pros that value our younger generation and the open level pros. And for us to get a chance to still, I mean, obviously, I just competed with those guys 8 months ago, a year ago with COVID. It was a little bit of a disruption, but 2 years ago, I'm playing Tyson McGuffin in the quarters of the singles U.S. Open. And so to see those guys, play with those guys again in a tournament capacity was really fun. I played with one of my very best friends, All Top Merchant, and combined age, he and I were 98 for a split age. So that was probably one of the oldest, not the oldest team in split age, but our chemistry is pretty good. And I really didn't start out enjoying the U.S. Open because singles first day, brutal heat, 88 degrees, insane humidity, and to nobody's fault, but it's just when you train in Indiana and when you coach and you have teenagers and you're really not training that much, that is a wake-up call from hell.
Oh,
And I was
I
ready
believe
to
it.
just kind of throw in the towel in singles the first day, and then the second day split age, you're playing against the top of the top, and Althoff and I won 6 or 7 matches to win the bronze. It was honestly like winning the gold in the pros seniors was incredible feeling, but equal to that was winning with Althoff and playing incredible pro seniors, but also the likes of Rafa Hewitt and Rob Nunnery and certainly Joey Farias and Tyler Loong and then Tyson in the last match, McGuffin. I mean, playing those guys and seeing them again, they're all good, great ambassadors for the game. And so I miss those guys. I see them at the tournament, but it's not on the other side of the net. So getting back into that vibe was great. And Althoff and I pulled out a lot of really close, narrow victories to get the bronze. Would I like to go on to play in the silver and gold in the back? Sure, but we knew going in. You lose, you could get bronze, and that's it. And I respect the tournament directors for their decisions.
Yeah, we've brought that subject up many times over the years, and they just have their policy and their philosophy on that type of structure, and it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. The good news is that's not the way every tournament is designed, and that leads me to my next question for you, which is you're a part of the APP Pro Tour, and one of the stops, if not more stops in Indiana, but I know for one, the Indy Open or the Indianapolis Open is part of the APP tour stops. So I want to know, what is your involvement with that tour and how have you evolved with that over the last year or so?
So basically, my wife and I run the Indy Open APP Tour. That's our involvement with the tour. We obviously know Ken very well, and we know Dana very well, and we were kind of involved more in the beginning, but due to insane schedules and 3 teenagers, and Ken has a grandiose perspective on the growth of his tour, which I respect big time. But it was best for Bridget and I to be involved in one. And the fact that we're having a tournament in 3 weeks in Zionsville, Indiana, I'm super happy to show this epic level of production of players to my hometown. And quite honestly, they're on tennis courts. We're going to get some painted to, the dedicated style, and a lot of them will be taped tennis courts. And this was an event that was supposed to happen 2 years ago, and obviously it didn't. And we may rotate it around in Indianapolis at different sites, but the fact of my community, where I live, where I coach tennis, where I've taken bullets for loving pickleball in the community, it's really invigorating. And to know, some of the pros like Althoff and Zane Navatil and Adam Stone and Steve Deacon, and on the girls' side, Corinne and Maggie and Andrea. I mean, it's just, I'm leaving people out, which is Jay and Pat. I mean, I love these people. They're good people for the game, and the pro seniors that are coming, Mircha and Sperling and Helen and Linda. I mean, it's really awesome because I think there's more and more value, whether it's the APP, PPA, given to the pro level, and clearly that's being shown with prize money. But I just think through the live streams and what the U.S. Open did, I think that it's just an awesome growth that you and I've seen in the last year or two.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to bring this topic up with you because when I met you, you were not a senior pro yet. You were not of age. And since that time, I've been in the sport about 4.5 years, and I've seen you kind of not that you cannot at all hang with the young boys because the young guns because you've proven that you can. But I have seen you playing more senior events as of Del Rey, U.S. Open, and stuff like that. So talk about what that is like to transition from competing under 50, then moving into that 50 plus, and then what's the future of that? You can talk generally about the senior division and what the future is, or you can narrow that down to the APP's involvement with senior pros and how they're trying to keep them, for lack of a better term, relevant in the sport and really make them a showcase. And let me clarify what I mean by what the APP is doing there. At Delray Beach, they actually brought in two commentators and had their own senior pro court. And so that was, in my mind, was an attempt to give the senior pro division some spotlight, some recognition. Is that right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And to be fair to both tours, they have absolutely given us some level of prestige. And in a general context, to have people that are now 46, 47, 48, the Steve Deacons, the all top merchants of the world on the men's side, looking and knowing that they've got, a new opportunity in a couple of years when they've invested so much in the sport. I'm really happy and anxious for those guys to get up in there to pro senior ranks. And it's true of the women. I don't know the pro women as well as to who's older, but I do think that kind of a second lease on life at a pro level is a really wise thing. The pro seniors talk, we communicate, we have fan bases, we have a lot of students. We've been doing this a long time, and they want to see us. And I think one thing I'm really proud of all the pro seniors, men and women alike, because I did see the women's senior play with the women pro open players, and I was really proud of the way the seniors represented in that split age. And if there's one thing that it showed, the pro pickleball community is that seniors can still play really high level pickleball. And today's top level pros, open level, for them to know that when their body ages, when they can't quite handle the heat, playing 7 hours of 20-year-olds, there is another opportunity. And oddly for me, Scott, this is something very few people know. When I played pro tennis for 6 months, I was ranked 400 in the world, and I was faced at 23 years old to make a decision of do I continue on pro tour tennis or do I take an awesome job that my role model icon Todd Witsken, who's deceased, he offered me that job, and I had to choose one or the other, and so I chose not to play pro tennis. I chose I chose coaching tennis, being marketing director, and oddly, the emergence of pro pickleball has kind of fed that desire that I didn't quite get or go for in tennis. So
Right.
I'm super appreciative that there is the high profile level of, obviously I played this pro sport for 8 years and I've won some big tournaments, Chicago and Centralia, whatnot. But at the senior level, it really pushes guys like me to stay more fit, to live a healthier lifestyle, to get sleep, to think about a salad instead of a Twinkie. There's a lot of good things, and you got decathletes that seem like they're running around ready to chase the Franklin ball for 7 minutes a point, and you're like, wow, do I really want to do this? Well, you're on the tour, you got to go for it, and it's 15 over, and these guys and women are really pretty fit and taking it seriously, and I'm really excited for you and all of my brothers and sisters that are 30 and 40 to have this to look forward to in the growth of it.
For sure. And I've seen everybody in general that's taking pickleball more serious, getting in their healthy diets, getting in their cardio, and they're preparing better going into a tournament than they used to 3 or 4 years ago even. What's it like for you to be a part of such a special time? I mean, what does that mean to you at 50 plus years old now to be part of what's the growth is like the tennis was back in the 60s and the 70s? Are you excited about the next 5 years of pickleball and being a part of something big?
Yeah, Scott, what I see at the pro level, open and seniors, is a lot of respect, and I don't mean just respect amongst each other, but respect for the spectators. And I see people giving their time. I see fans that want to take pictures, and um, I feel like there is a ton of synergy between pros and wanting to give back. We understand that there was now a limelight and a possible 10 or 20,000 views on a live stream from the US Open. We get that. But most importantly, I'm really proud of how there's not a lot of elitism mentality amongst the pro pickleball players, and and they're also being rewarded, whether it's them doing their camps and clinics, or private lesson rates, or appearance fees or whatnot. They're also being rewarded, and I'm proud for the respect that's given to the higher level training that's done. Because look, a lot of pros have now given up their past job for the current job, which is pro playing. So I think there's a give and take, and I really see the balance, and I don't think it's stopping. And to be an owner of a pro tournament, and to be a player, that's in the top 3 or 4 pro senior. I'm on cloud nine. My kids even care now about pickleball, but only because one of their friends' parents watched me on a live stream when they go to US Open. Like, my kids wouldn't have cared if they didn't hear that. So
That's
now that
so
my kids
awesome, man.
care, it's a beautiful thing.
But now there's pressure, Rick, because you have to keep winning golds at the U.S. Open, so they'll keep caring.
Probably
A
true.
lot of pressure there. No, I'm just kidding. But look, there's a question, a good question. Pickleball co-op community. You can read it, but I'm going to read it out loud. It says, "What do you find the most difficult part of playing senior pro?" So let's start with that one, and then we'll move on to the next question. So go ahead with that. What's the most
Well,
difficult part about playing senior?
yeah, there's two facets of that. One is I'm a singles player, I'm a mixed doubles player, and I'm a doubles player. And playing 3 events in 3 days. I mean, I played 33 matches between playing Utah and Delray Beach. And that was in 8 days. And I'm not complaining. And, I think it's the most pro matches out of anybody. And that's tough because, when I am still teaching tennis and still teaching pickleball and still being a dad and a husband, it's tough to be ready for that. So I think the fitness component is a huge part of it. As far as, so there's 100% a reality that singles can affect your doubles result. Doubles that could affect your mixed doubles. They all can interchange, and that's true at the pro level too. But when you're 30 and 25, it's not quite as noticeable. So that's one thing. And then the other facet is how the game is played. I really don't see so much of a difference in the pace and the shot selection. And yes, the mobility is different, but not so noticeable that I'm playing the game differently. I think more than anything, equipment is really evolving, and I think the paddle you use, the weight that you use, heck, the surface you play on, the ball you use, that to me makes more difference. Like an example, playing in the pro seniors in singles first day, 88-degree humidity, playing the Franklin and playing native Floridians, like I was done in the quarterfinals. I was done. Win or lose, that's it. Like, I'm got
It
the
was
cold
that was
chills.
the
I'm dying. I'm calling timeouts. Byron's about ready to give me CPR and mouth to mouth, although he doesn't want to do that, and I don't want to have to do that. So I'm like flat out, and like that's a brutal first day. And these guys are all really good. Points are long, and a Franklin ball, which I like both balls, but it's just hard to finish with a Franklin ball. So those
yeah.
things matter. So I don't know if I answered his question exactly, but I can tell you one event to the next in pro seniors seems to matter, especially if you go far in multiple events. Boy, I mean, I remember being in Delray where I'm just sitting between matches and people are coming up to me and like I can't even talk to them because I'm like,
Oh,
wow,
I saw
I'm
that.
glazed.
I saw that of you at the Delray tournament where you were battling against Mircha, and you looked like you were struggling for a bit there, but then you pulled it together and you won it in 3. But man, it was a gauntlet that you had to go through. I mean, Mircha is no easy opponent, and that was such a fun match. So one of the questions on that, one of the facets of that question was, is it less of a power game and more of something else? Not in the singles game with you and freaking Mircha, man. It was some
Yeah.
some ripping.
Yeah, there's definitely a contrast in styles, but I mean, Mircea hits his forehand as hard as anybody. We all know that he trains with a lot of the higher level pro open players in South Florida. To be fair, I beat Mircea in the final match, and then Mircea beat me in the gold medal match. So I will say fatigue was a factor in that match, and kudos to him for being in insanely good shape because he outlasted me for sure. And
Yeah, and I was referring to the one where you beat him in the earlier
okay,
round.
okay,
I didn't actually I didn't want to comment on that one because I didn't see it, but I did watch the
okay.
earlier match, and it looked like he was gonna take you down in that, and then you dug deep and were able to pull it out. So
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm going to see Mircea a lot. There are new guys coming onto the scene, and that's the thing you asked about in the next 5 years, pro seniors and pro open men and women. There's so many young talent, and that means 49 to 50-year-olds at pro senior, and then 20-year-olds at pro open men and women. I just think parity's gonna evolve, and I don't get complacent for 1 second that I've had. I started playing pro senior in February. I have the world's worst birthday for pickleball seniors in January. So I was kind of like chomping at the bit to actually get into pro senior. I know guys at Weinbach and I talk about, we do some pro open. I'm playing pro open with my buddy in Beer City, but pro senior is such a handful that I don't miss pro open because physically it's just so much of a grind. So, but all the new talent, I don't take one moment for granted. And I was just after I won gold with Scott in the men's doubles, we hadn't had a great year playing a couple tournaments, and for that to kind of turn around and have the chemistry evolve, in the biggest tournament of the year, like that was pretty cool. But I just soaked it in because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get here again. My goal is to win
right.
gold in every tournament, every event. I think I've got a good chance, but at the same time, I can lose. Heck, I played Tony Gottlieb in Del Rey where I beat really good players. I beat Spearman and Barba and Mircea. But Gottlieb had me the first game. I'm like, this guy's really good first round, and I'm like grinding out a second, third game. So, and that's coming from Utah after I played so many. So,
Yeah,
nothing's for granted anymore. And this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even a pro open, maybe you could say first or second round. Not anymore.
for sure. And there's a whole hot topic or debate right now of pros getting paid more than senior pros and this and that and getting more exposure. But I will tell you at the US Open, one of the matches that I did was a senior pro match in men's senior pro, and it was amazing with Scott Crandall and Dan Gingrich, Jose Derisi, and Tao Tong Van. Those guys were unbelievable.
There's a lot of talent on both sides, but it's really interesting the dynamic of these men's pro senior team, and the partnerships, and there's a lot of different partnerships. I know firsthand for this year and next year, and chemistry and partnerships and complementary styles. It's a huge part, and I think one of 6 teams could win any of these tournaments any given day. And those guys are great players. There's no doubt, and nobody goes into these tournaments that has had success and says we're definitely going to win this, because if they do, they're crazy. Nothing's a given. There's too many talented guys out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I agree. We got a comment from Jared saying there's a lot of background noise. Do you hear any background noise, or is it just Jared?
I do hear a little background. No background.
Let me see. I'm not sure where that's coming from. There was no background noise, so I'm not sure what's going on
Not
with
in the
that.
beginning.
No, I don't know if it's something. I'm not honestly sure where that's coming from. But you do hear something?
I do hear a little bit of static, but I can hear you fine.
Okay, we'll just keep rolling. I honestly don't know where that noise is coming from. Okay, so talk about what the involvement is as a tournament director. Is it a lot to take on? Do people not realize what a tournament director has on their plate?
Yeah, I'm privy to the conversations on the pickleball forum, and I'm seeing a lot of criticism or analytical inexperience based on that. Kudos to the people that work behind the scenes and in the front line of these tournaments. I can tell you that I've run a bunch of tournaments in tennis. And then my wife and I bought a club in Terre Haute, Indiana. We've run some tournaments, and one thing's for sure, somebody's not going to be happy at the end of the weekend or week or whatever. But all you can do is continue to try and improve. I can tell you that it's really, after the event's over, you really feel good about how many people you got out there, how many social integrations you've had on the court, what great fitness that you just provided. For me, when you talk about prize money, you talk about sponsorships, you talk about painting of courts, and then you talk about renting of courts and paying of referees and paying of administrative officials. It's a little dicey, but I just knew, I'm in a place in my life where in Indiana, I want pickleball on the map. And Indianapolis has a pretty thriving community, and I wanted the top to come here. And so I can't speak to the level of the U.S. Opens and Nationals, and honestly, even some of the larger AVP and PPA tournaments. But I can tell you that I'm nervous for 3 weeks from now in Indiana Open because I want people to have a great time and have a great experience. And that's, Indianapolis ran the RCA Championships tennis tournament and was voted #1 for the professional experience year after year. And, we don't view pros as prima donnas. I'm one of those pros, but we also feel like amateurs and pros alike deserve to have a great, great experience. And, there's entry fees that are a little higher and there's this and that, but I can tell you there's so many fees that people don't understand or realize that
Right.
if you ask me to choose a side that I have a little more sympathy towards, it's probably the tournament directors and the people running the tournaments. And my gosh, I've been playing in snow in the last month and a half that they didn't expect snow. I'm playing in 89, and they had nothing to do with that. Rain on and off at the U.S. Open how many times? That's
oh my goodness.
Don't hate on Mother Nature, or don't hate on them when it's Mother Nature's fault. Who knows? I'm getting ready to paint courts for, that's going to be there for 3 days, and I got to paint them back to tennis courts. I don't know if we're going to have a monsoon, and I just ate all that money because I painted all these courts, and I get screwed over. I don't know, but I know I'm going to bring pickleball to Zionsville, Indiana. They're going to make it happen.
That's right. And honestly, I was, griping a little or whatever at the U.S. Open about how much delay we had and rain stuff. But then Melissa McCurley told everybody, she informed everybody that they did like 967 matches, or I don't know, that number may be off just slightly, but 900 plus matches in a day, breaking the pickleball tournament's record. And that really, Rick, put it into perspective for me. I was like, you know what? Like, that's a massive amount of games to undertake, and I should just probably be quiet right now and not be, complaining. So
yeah, that's mind-boggling. And I think one thing, any of the players that are watching, amateur and pro alike, they just have to remember that everybody uses the same ball. Everybody's dealing with the same aspect of waiting and delays, and what you choose to do as far as time management and waiting out a delay. It's easier, I think, to get irritated when you lose when you're dealing with these things. But if it's the same playing field for everybody, I think everyone needs to be realistic that they're doing the best they can under circumstances. And I think that the even playing games to 11, it's not my favorite play game to 11. As well as I do, a couple of that court's a bad line call, a distraction, and boom, it's over. Like, I don't like games to 11, but I completely understand why they had to maneuver to them. My hope is, and I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes by saying this, but we know Indy Open's happening because we have indoor gymnasium and facility access. So for anybody watching that's playing my tournament in 3 weeks, it will happen. I don't blame anybody. I mean, in Florida in April, school's in session. I don't know that you can get into the school midday. I think it's not possible, but we're doing when school's out. So and I've been a school coach for 20 years, so I have a good relationship there. But I encourage every tournament director to try and get, and I think people would rather play even in a gym versus not play at all. That's
for sure.
One thing that bothers me a little bit. I hope that the sport can evolve into indoor court backup, even if it's the same service for everybody. I'd rather play than not play and just go home,
Oh, for sure. I remember a year or so ago, the Las Vegas Open had to do the last day on the gym floor or something. And, it looked a little bit discouraging for the players, but they did what they had to do. So let's talk about the APP and their growth. They've come and brought a lot of tournaments to the scene. Um, what do you see? Do you see the Indy Open being part of the APP Tour for the next couple of years? Did you guys work out anything long term, or is that just year by year right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, Bridget and I were involved in the APP from the ground floor after my meeting with Ken 3 years ago. I would think you'd have to ask Ken, but I would assume that he and Dana and Melissa value that we did a lot of behind the scenes work from the infrastructure in the beginning. And I like the vision of the APP Tour. I like the vision of the PPA Tour. You know, it's just we're in such a growth process, and you know, two tours, you know, are they competing against each other? Are they representing different things? I think, you know, it's their choice what they want to represent. I've played PPAs, I've played APPs. My current 2022 calendar has more APPs and less PPAs, but, you know, that's okay because, you know, for me, it's the prize money helps me offset my expenses better in APP, but, you know, some of the stages in PPA are quite impressive. And, you know, I think, you know, between Ken and Connor and, you know, all the entities, I mean, is there going to be a third tour? Who knows? Are they going to merge to one? I don't know, but I know from a player's perspective, I heard pros and pro seniors say they wish there were less tournaments. They like that there are more tournaments. For me, you know, if they can all be financially successful, I love having a pick of, you know, the different geographical options. You know, I don't live in California. I don't live near California. So playing in the PPAs isn't as geographically wise for me. And I know that's the case for, you know, the Midwest stops at APP, smaller tournament. You know, I think that's maybe a little less attractive for, you know, some of the players out West. So I like the evolution. I like that there's a ton of tournaments, and I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know that I want Bridget wants, who we've worked hard on APP and then Indy specifically, that we want this to be a mainstay of the tour for a very long time.
Do you see in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe even a little longer, do you see the tours turning into like an all pro tour and then another week would be like all the amateurs, or do you think there's not going to be maybe enough money in the sport yet in the next, let's say, just 5-year time frame for that to sustain? Because right now it's obvious that the amateurs have to be a part of these tournaments because they're a big portion of the signups. I mean, they're a massive portion of that. So I just wonder if there's going to be enough sponsorship and other companies coming in from the outside to kind of sustain like an actual pro tour where it's separated, maybe even on different weeks. I don't know. That discussion's been brought up many times.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I haven't thought a ton about that, but as you bring it up, I think number one, okay, I have a tennis background, and you don't typically see amateur events at a pro tennis tournament. But at the same time, you know, you get, you know, twice as many pickleball players on a tennis court. So I think right now, the amateur and pro tournament together is a really good thing. And selfishly for me as a teaching professional and who runs clinics and private lessons, and I saw some of my students at the U.S. Open. That's really cool. They wanted to watch me, and I got to see some of them play, and that's awesome. So selfishly, I hope that pros and amateurs stick together. And I, you know, on a good note, there's so many large facilities that are being built now in pickleball. I know one specifically here in Indianapolis that very few people know about that very well could be coming to fruition. That's going to be a monster indoor and outdoor facility. So if it's happening here in Indy, my only guess is places I don't know around the country are going to build 20 and 30 and 40 pickleball. So with court numbers like that, I don't really see why you disconnect the amateurs from the pros. I think it's really cool for the pros to support the amateurs, and I'm seeing it. And obviously the amateurs like watching the pros. So a mutual interest is there, in my opinion.
Absolutely. What do you think bringing the APP Indy Tour tournament stop to your hometown? What do you think that's going to do for just the spark and growth of pickleball locally for you guys?
Well, it's thought out. And one of the thoughts is, okay, we're running a free teenage event the day before the pro tournament. And most of these teenagers in Zionsville, Indiana, have not played pickleball. And quite frankly, some of them have been coached that from a tennis side that pickleball is not like the most impressive sport. Well, I've heard that for quite some years, and I think the people that have said that are probably biting their tongue and have their tail between their legs. And I'm really excited for the younger generation to see these young and pro senior athletes bring it to the highest level. And if you bring a free clinic to the day before event, they start seeing food trucks, they start hearing DJs. Then there's like kind of a wow factor. In Zionsville, Indiana, we actually are running it on their high school tennis courts, and right behind there is their baseball stadiums, and we have the whole facility. So we're putting signage up, and I just think it's a natural desire to have youth more involved in the sport. I'm one that believes tennis and pickleball can be synergistic, athletic, complementary sports. And so I have 2 middle school teams that I have 33 girls and 37 boys, almost 80 some players between 2 different teams. So they know I'm going and playing pro pickleball. They know that I'm winning prizes. Heck, their parents are watching me on live stream. So it's coming, man. And you ask the next 5 years, I think the validity in tennis players' minds and families is going to be the natural progression. And then now you get baseball players and soccer players and volleyball. Now they all become interested. So I do see that in the next 5 years.
For sure. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We're seeing in Florida, the counties and the cities are building these courts that can't keep up with the demand. And that's starting to happen all over the country. I think when I'm talking, I'm hearing that noise. So it may be me on my end, but nothing had changed. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But also for people watching, because you put your nickname Ripskin, talk about that nickname. And did it? Yeah, there you go. It's on your shirt. Did that come from pickleball or tennis?
Came from my wife. My wife said, "Hey, I think you're Ripskin," and I kind of like it. Now, it was from day one when I realized I was going to take this to a pro level. I wanted to, and I think we talked about this in our last interview, which was obviously a couple years ago, but the memory of Todd Witsken and our final trip and his terminal illness with brain cancer. A bald eagle was following us around Yellowstone National Park, and so a bald eagle on the Ripskin logo. It was really important for me to evolve that, and I'm really patriotic. I love America. I love our men and women of armed forces, and so the red, white, and blue was a no-brainer to me. My dad was in the Army, and just have a lot of friends and connection to that. So it was kind of a combination, Ripskin, of my wife and kind of identifying my game with kind of a hot term and expression, along with the bald eagle and the red, white, and blue connection. And by the way, I've got a clothing line that's coming out with hats and wristbands and shirts like this. And so I'm excited to have that launched. I really didn't kind of brand myself as quickly as some of the other top pros, but I'm really proud of all of them for getting that niche and moving forward. And so I'm excited to go that avenue now too, because things like live streams really benefit guys like me, that can get to a podium and play singles, doubles, and mix and see in different capacities. And I think I've been known to be a little bit of a personality on the court. I certainly like to grunt a little bit, and people ask me that all the time. By the way, Scott, do you grunt because you're in pain, or you know what? It's probably my tennis background, but it also just keeps me kind of loose, and I just have done it my whole life. So it's not to distract anybody, and some people like it, some people probably could do without it, but it's part of the Ripskin mentality, I guess.
To each their own. And also between you and Althoff on the court, that had to be a lot of grunting going on.
yeah, you're right about that. When Althoff and I played Weinbach and Yates in the Chicago Open, I think that was a decibel level that may not have been matched since that match. But Dave, I respect what he does and his level of intensity. Althoff, and I just got to say, for those of you that have a partner that you have such great chemistry with, the sky's the limit. I don't think people look at Althoff and I as a team that would lose only one match and beat the likes of the teams we beat. But like, I trust the guy, I love the guy, and I would do anything for that guy. I'd take a bullet for him. So when you get that level of chemistry, like, anything's possible on the pickleball court. And so I'm glad you brought his name up again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Dane Gingrich, he has a question. He said, do you see the game evolve into a faster style on the Senior Pro Tour as it is at the open level?
That's a tough question. I see guys getting faster and more fit. So if they start penetrating the ball more, I don't know that that's going to be advantageous. Certainly at a doubles level, because guys volley so well. But at a singles, I think serves and returns will get faster and harder. But I also think it's not going to be as evident because, I mean, the level of fitness that I saw at the U.S. Open in these seniors was insane. And in fact, I even am proud of Dane. He's obviously what he's done for the game and his mental side and how much commitment he has to the game. I'm really proud of him. So I appreciate him asking the question. I know he's going to be on the same side of the net as me at SoCal, and I'm sure I'll be on the opposite side some. And I'm proud of Dane and everything he does.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dane Gingrich. He has done a lot for the sport and helping people improve their mental toughness and mental strategy as much as the physical. So we definitely need more of Dane Gingrich. But all right, we're coming up on 45 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to waste any of your time. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Any other topics while I've got you? Something that you're passionate about, or even thinking some sponsors, whatever. I'm going to kind of open the floor up to you to take it.
Yeah, I just so on the U.S. Open, I got the 3 medals, the bronze and the split age, and then mixed doubles. Helen Wilhelm is a great partner. She's a woman I didn't know a year ago. She reached out to me, and she's like a sister, and I really love playing with that woman, and I love the chemistry, and we got bronze, and I was really proud of that. And we hadn't talked about that at the U.S. Open. Obviously, Scott Moore and I, getting the gold was, pretty tremendous. And then that night I went and played with Amy Yarborough in Dallas after I won the mixed in Naples. I literally was in Dallas that same night playing in a mixed regional tournament with Amy, a good friend of mine and a fellow clinician. And, I think Paddle Tech, so what these sponsors do for us players to help us, have defray entry fees and sponsorship of and prize money matching at times. That's really helpful because, maybe at 50 years old, we're not completely dependent on it for the next meal, but it helps validate us touring around and taking our talents to different parts of the country. And it's going to be global. And that's another thing. In 5 years, I'm 100% certain that there'll be more and more international stops for all of us. So thanks to the sponsors that make that possible. And Paddle Tech is my sponsor, and Air Feet and Exercise Inc. They've done great things. So just, know, Scott, that you are a great ambassador through the shows you do, and all of those who are on the media side. You're an interesting mix of a great player and on the media front. But I just think as long as we all work together still, and I see the sportsmanship at the pro level, 99% of players are insane. I mean, Rob Nunnery could have called a ball out at 13, 14 match point that I hit a backhand on the line. We all knew it was on the line, but in tennis, that may have been called out. Rob calls it in, we win 16-14, we go on to win bronze. Like, that's a really cool, and Jose DeRisi was backing on that call. Like, that's really great sportsmanship. I love to see it. And so I commend all the pros for their behavior and willingness to communicate with amateurs and realize nobody's too big for this sport. And lastly, I want to thank all of those who grew this sport 20 years ago, in Washington and Bainbridge, and the stories about the dog, and like, that matters to me, the Hall of Fame that they're doing. I see that, and while they may not always feel appreciated, know that guys like me see that, and the young people, the Wyatts, Stones, and the Alyssa, like, we pay attention to this stuff. I don't know who those kids are, but I see it, and I think as long as we're all in this together, I think our family is going to continue to grow this in all parts of the world. I do.
Absolutely. And Rick, I'm just excited to know you, man. I'm glad that pickleball brought us together. And I look forward to the next interview that I do with you. I know you're going to continue to grow with the sport and evolve and just continue to push the limits. So I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Scott, for having me. And I thank everybody that tuned in, and anything I can do to help in the future with my camps and clinics. I'm going to start touring around doing camps as well, including internationally. So Team Witsken has a great staff, and I've got some good partnerships with pros. So I'm happy to help everybody.
Awesome. And for everybody that's going to be in the Indy area, go say hey to Rick. He's going to be a busy man, but take a second, take a picture with him, say hello, and make sure you thank him for all the hard work.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Witsken.com.
TeamWitsken.com, guys. Thanks, Rick. I appreciate your time, man. Go have some dinner and enjoy the rest of the night.
Hey, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Happy Mother's Day. Absolutely. Glad you said that.
Yeah.
All right, Rick.
Thanks.
Take care, man.
Appreciate it, Scott.
Good to see you too.